Trenton 365 with Jacque Howard. Profiling the businesses, organizations, and people that make Trenton better.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the Trenton 365 show. If I sound like I'm a little bit out of breath, I am. As oftentimes with live radio and TV, stuff like this happens. I was running a bit late, but slid my way into the seat that I'm in with the help of my amazing staff and team here, Vinny, and of course, the DJ Say What, Steve Cook. So anyway, I'm Jacque Howard. You're listening and watching the Trenton 365 show over WIMG 1300, the three-time Stellar Award-winning station. And in addition to that, you are watching over WPHY Channel 25, covering Mercer County, New Jersey. So in the studio with me, I have Alex Rivera. And Alex and I go back a bit. We've partnered on a couple of other projects, such as Code for Trenton, Library Boxes of Trenton, etc. And Alex is also leading or a member of the My Brother's Keeper Trenton initiative, which is being done through the municipality. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But without any further ado, Alex Rivera, welcome back to the Trenton 365 show.
Thank you for having me, Jacque.
It's always a pleasure to see you. So, really quickly, I don't want you to go into all of the details about your education and so forth here in Trenton, but just touch on where you went to school and what you're doing here in the city.
So I went to the College of New Jersey, and I got my bachelor's degree in political science. Well, let me back up a little bit. I am a lifelong Trenton resident, and I ended up going to the College of New Jersey, got my bachelor's degree in political science, and immediately thereafter I went to Arizona State University and got my master's degree in public administration.
And after that, you then furthered your education at...
I did not further my education after that, but I did. My first real job after school was at Thomas Edison State University.
There you go. And you were at the Watson...
The John S. Watson Institute for Public Policy.
There we go. So the John S. Watson School of Public Policy at the Thomas Edison State, now University.
Yes, then college, now university.
Awesome. So how did you get hooked up with My Brother's Keeper Trenton?
So when I was at Thomas Edison, the city approached the Watson Institute and said that they wanted to take on an initiative that was focused on youth. And at about a year prior, President Obama had launched the My Brother's Keeper initiative, which was just kind of a call to action for communities to come together and focus on the issues that young men of color face. So that ended up being the city, along with the Watson Institute. We joined on to the My Brother's Keeper initiative, and we took that challenge. And for our focus areas, they are employability for young men, focusing on those 16 to 24, early literacy, and chronic absenteeism. And we've been working on having a more focused public safety component to that as well.
Mm-hmm. And so employability, early literature, chronic absenteeism, and you said public safety.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about the public safety portion?
That portion is kind of in development. We've been working with it's the Trenton Prevention Policy Board, which is out of TCNJ. And excuse me one second.
Mm-hmm. Now, if I remember correctly, that organization is a combination of people who have a background in law enforcement, but also education as well.
Yeah, education, and also things like mental health services and other services that youth need to kind of be supported when they're at risk.
Okay. Now, regarding My Brother's Keeper, again, it's a very commonly used term, and since President Obama launched this initiative, there's probably hundreds of them throughout the country. How can people find out more about My Brother's Keeper Trenton?
So if you go on the city's website, we do have a section dedicated to My Brother's Keeper, kind of talking a little bit about our focus areas. I just kind of encourage people to get in contact with me. The way the My Brother's Keeper initiative has kind of evolved is a lot of my work portfolio is really focused on the focus areas, and we're looking to support organizations and people who are also working within those focus areas. So one of the examples of that would be in employability. I kind of took on some of the Mayor's Summer Youth Employment Initiative.
Okay.
and have been working to support that, and actually was able to secure really great partnerships for this year that kind of better captures all the summer employment that's going on in the city.
Now, is that part of the program that was launched, I guess it was early or late winter, in partnership with the Mid-Jersey Regional Chamber of Commerce as well?
Yeah. And that our first year was last year. And yeah, the Mid-Jersey Chamber, or kind of their nonprofit arm, I believe it's the Mid-Jersey Center for Economic Development.
Okay.
They're kind of funding it. And then Mill Hill Child and Family Development Center is supporting about half of the employment. And then the city is supporting the other half through our seasonal recreation programming.
Now, you mentioned a little while ago about seeking partnerships.
Yeah.
Can you just talk about how that works and who are some of the partners, not necessarily specifically who they are, but what entities are you looking to partner with?
Well, it kind of depends on what focus area we're talking about. I would say that we're looking to support community-focused people and community-based organizations that are trying to, for example, early literacy, those who are focusing on getting early elementary school age children to read on grade level.
Okay.
So that would be an example of the kind of organization we're looking to work with. Really anyone, say for employability, those looking to place youth in employment, young adults, 16 to 18 and young adults. And then with chronic absenteeism, that's actually kind of been taken on by the school district, and they've done a really great job of getting the chronic absenteeism rate down from when we first started the initiative. So I'd say that's a really big success of the My Brother's Keeper initiative that's kind of not really talked about.
Gotcha. I'm speaking with Alex Rivera. Alex Rivera works for the city of Trenton and the My Brother's Keeper initiative. But in addition to that, we're going to be talking about Trenton's second annual Maker's Day, and we'll be getting into the details in just a moment. You can go to the city of Trenton's website, and then you can look up the My Brother's Keeper link there. And they're acting under 4 different tenets, basically: employability for ages 16 to 24, early literacy, addressing chronic absenteeism, and public safety, which is a new portion that they've added. So you can reach out to Alex there. In addition to that, his contact information will be on the website and the Facebook page for Trenton 365 as well. So Alex, thanks for that information. Let's move and transition and talk a bit about Maker's Day. Now, when I first heard of Maker's Day, I forget who it was who had suggested that Trenton should have a bit of a Maker's Day. And in my mind, I was thinking, okay, well, Maker's Day, make what? So yeah, we do make some things, but I was immediately thinking food because I like eating a lot.
Yeah.
So I was thinking along the lines of food, chefs and bakers, etc. But then I started doing some research and found out, there's a whole much larger capacity for Maker's Day, and science, STEM and STEAM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and also adding A for art in there as well. So then I started saying, wow, I really don't know much about this at all. So when Eric Maywar, who works for the city of Trenton, and I believe he's in economic development.
Yeah.
He had contacted me last year about Maker's Day, and I supported it to an extent where I, put some information out socially, et cetera, but I wasn't able to participate. This year, I'm really excited about participating, where I will have a library box there on site, and some of the children who come will get a chance to actually learn about library boxes, but they'll actually assist in decorating this library box that will be adopted by someone who will then distribute books and magazines and other literature through them in the community. And for the students, the children who come, I will be giving out over 300 copies of Highlights magazines that are being donated from magazineliteracy.org. So shout out to John Minnell as well. So can you just give me the overall summary of Maker's Day and your affiliation and involvement with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Maker's Day is basically a celebration of those who make in Trenton. And that includes our manufacturers, our artists, our food manufacturers. We're actually going to have Shiloh Community Development Corporation's Junior Chef program there on Friday, and they'll be cooking some things as well. So, yeah, it's just a celebration of all the makers in Trenton, whether they be really large manufacturers, large manufacturers like we have, or an artist who kind of just does a little something on the weekend.
That's great. So Is this wrapped into a larger initiative, like statewide or national?
So this actually came out of a program that the name escapes me at the moment, but it was a NJIT program, and in partnership with the city's Department of Housing and Economic Development, NJIT, the city, and some of our local manufacturers got together to figure out how they would transition themselves off of their reliance on defense contracts. When we got together, it kind of turned out that the manufacturers didn't really feel like they needed to do that, but they did identify one of the areas that they really felt like the city could be helpful in was making sure that they had a workforce that they could reliably draw from. So, and we thought that one of the better ways to do that was to just kind of implant interest in manufacturing as a career early on. So, with TechTite was one of the manufacturers who was a primary partner, as well as Adam from Code for Trenton. We kind of came up with Makers Day, and we wanted to just provide these hands-on experiences with Trenton makers to some of the summer camps that we have going on in the city. So for this year, we'll be having the Boys and Girls Club there, the YMCA, the CYO, the city's summer camps that we're running, and I believe that also the Mercer County 4-H Club will be there. So basically, we're just looking to provide those kind of experiences for all the kids who are going to these summer programs in the city.
Now, I'm going to go back and talk a bit about manufacturing. Everyone in the region knows the saying, Trenton makes, the world takes, and its historical significance with Roebling and pottery and so forth. But when you think about manufacturing now, I think that there's a lot of people who don't identify Trenton as still being a manufacturing city or having manufacturing jobs. Can you just drill down on that a bit more, please?
Yeah, so the city still has over 70 manufacturers, and the manufacturers that we have are actually expanding. I believe that Hutchinson and TechTite have both recently expanded. They are really big producers for the defense industry. So TechTite does like military grade flashlights. Hutchinson does a variety of things. One of the things that I know they do is they actually make robots that will be deployed for like search and rescue or possibly bomb diffusion. And Switlick is another city manufacturer, and they make parachutes and have done so for a very long time.
And just to add my little 2 cents there, so Switlick, from what I understand, is the only parachute manufacturer that supports the military, from what I understand.
Oh, I didn't know that. If so, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I may not be 100% right with that, but they definitely have the governmental contract for supplying parachutes to the military and also parachutes in general. And Hutchinson Industries, they make run flat tires for the military vehicles, and then I'm sure that's also for other high-end vehicles that actually have that. I'm speaking with Alex Rivera, who is works for the city of Trenton. He is part of the My Brother's Keeper initiative here in the city of Trenton, but he's also part of Makers Day. And Makers Day is happening this Friday, and that is July 28th here in Trenton, New Jersey, specifically in the Roebling Wire Building, the Wire Works Building, which is on South Clinton Avenue. And this is going to take place on Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and it's free to attend. And you can go on to the website. You can just do a search for Trenton Makers Day 2017. All the information will come up there as well. We'll be back after a short break. You're listening and watching the Trenton 365 show.
It took me a long time to be able to say Chandler has cancer, because that is such a scary word. St. Jude takes care of absolutely everything. And knowing that we don't have to pay for all of the medical expenses, that's huge.
St. Jude allowed me to focus on being a mom to Bryce. And sometimes I'm just in awe of the impact St. Jude has, not only on this community, but the world.
St. Jude is uniquely positioned to advance the cures of pediatric cancer, I think better than any other institution in the world. The contributions make a big difference.
Donors are important to us because you get the feeling that you have a team behind you. We have the resources and we have the focus. And so if St. Jude doesn't do it, who will?
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Welcome back to the Trenton 365 show. I'm your host, Jacque Howard. In the studio with me is Alex Rivera. And I'm going to be jumping back and forth as I normally do. Alex is part of the My Brother's Keeper initiative in Trenton, but he is also part of Maker's Day, which is happening this Friday. And that's specifically why he's in here talking about that to the audience. And Maker's Day is happening this Friday, July 28th in Trenton, New Jersey, at the Roebling Wire Works building. Some folks may know that as the air quotes Art All Night building, but it's technically a city-owned building. And that is where the Roebling wire rope was manufactured, and that wire rope was then used for the suspension bridges such as the Golden Gate, as well as the Brooklyn Bridge in New York. So Alex is going to be talking about Maker's Day, etc. And Alex, just before the break, you were talking about some of the manufacturers who are here in Trenton, and you said that Trenton has over 70 manufacturers who are in the city limits right now. And I know I can't name them all, and I'm a pretty active person, so I would assume that a lot of people in this region have no idea.
No, they definitely don't have any idea. It's one of the city's best kept secrets, and I think that there's a lot of opportunity to attract even more manufacturing to the city. Manufacturing is kind of an industry area that a lot of people think nationally is really declining, and I think that Trenton is one of those cities that can kind of push back on that. Manufacturing definitely isn't what people have thought could traditionally think of it. It's cleaner. I mean, even the entry level salaries are really good for like a packer or some other type of entry level position at one of our manufacturers. You could be making $12 or $13 an hour, just straight out of high school, no degree. Maybe you tinkered around with some tools a little bit. So it's really a legitimately great opportunity for people who may not want to go to college. Mm-hmm.
And I know I've been publicly have mentioned about manufacturing, and that we can't expect manufacturing to be the way that it was 40, 50 plus years ago. But the opportunity for manufacturing is still there. There's the niche market for manufacturing, maybe things on a smaller scale. One of the things that I'd like to always suggest is that the creative arts, fashion, for example, could easily take place in a city like Trenton because of its close proximity to New York and Philadelphia. It's easy access to the mountains, the shore, transportation, mass transportation. And also, there's no need for huge, large, expansive buildings. Yep. You can get this done in 1,200, 1,500 square foot spaces, which Trenton has plenty of them. And there's all you have to do is ride around, and you can see lots of the different lease or sale signs that are all over a lot of the commercial buildings. So there is plenty of real estate that is available to be occupied here in Trenton, New Jersey. But in addition to that, the rates of real estate in Trenton are going to be substantially different than if you were in Philadelphia or New York, or New York.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just starting out as a manufacturer and you kind of need to test out your product, or you just really kind of need a shoestring budget right now, Trenton is a really great place to be because, as you said, our access to transportation, and we have a great workforce in this area as well. And Mercer County Community College actually just recently made an investment in advanced manufacturing equipment that is really going to enhance the local economy's ability to produce workers who can work in this industry.
And folks, it's a shameless plug for another one of my initiatives. It's called Take My Tour of Trenton. It's a hashtag. You can always send me an email. I'd love to show you around what I see here in Trenton, New Jersey. And that email is trenton365show@gmail.com. And let's sit down. Let's have a cup of coffee, some tea, or if you want to buy me some food, we can do that as well. And we can do this tour either walking, driving, or on bicycle. And I can show you some of the amazing things that are happening in the capital city of New Jersey that's less than 7.5 square miles. And I know there's some folks out there who have a problem when we talk about the square mileage. They say, well, it's not really relevant. Well, yes, it is. A square mileage that's less than 7.5 or 7.2, whatever, 7.28 or whatever it is, that means we're literally a small town. And a lot of times we act and react that way. But it's important, I think, for us to realize that so that we can encourage people to get out and explore the 7+ square mileage that we have here, and realize that it is bikeable, it is walkable, that a lot of the things that are portrayed in the media is not necessarily a true shining light on what's happening here in Trenton. There's a lot more positive things that are happening here in Trenton, New Jersey than there are negative. Alex, regarding Maker's Day, what can some of the people expect if they come and visit on Friday?
So one of the things that we wanted to focus on this year was takeaways. We want to give all the kids something tangible that they can have to say, just something that they can look upon and think about the experiences that they had on Maker's Day. So some of the kids who come will be able to take away. We had a little 3D medallion, 3D printed medallion printed by Mercer County Community College. So Harry Bittner is one of the teachers over there, and he wanted to help us out with Maker's Day. So we're going to have some of those as a takeaway for the kids. TechTite is going to provide basically a flashlight kit. So every child who comes through will be able to make their own flashlight and take it home. Are there any other takeaways?
Well, I can tell you tell you that.
Books.
So through Library Boxes of Trenton, and also the Trenton Literacy Project, and I may be getting that wrong, but
Trenton Literacy Movement?
Yeah, Trenton Literacy Movement, Classics, Books, and Gifts. We'll be giving out hundreds of books. Literally, I have 300 highlights magazines that I will be personally giving away during the LBOTs, as well as other people will be giving out books to the children as well.
Awesome. We're going to have one really cool thing there this year that we didn't have last year, and honestly I never really expected to have for Maker's Day. So I mentioned that we want to celebrate all of the makers in the city, and that includes our artists and especially our musicians. So I was actually able to hook up with a local filmmaker, Joseph Halsey, and he's going to bring a mobile recording studio and one of those a fancy video camera that you'd use for filmmaking.
Awesome.
I'm really, really excited about that. I know that at community meetings, a lot of people really talk about we need to support the kids in things that they're interested in, and one of those things is music making. And there's not really a lot of opportunity in the city to really work on that and develop that interest. So to have this here and to have a local filmmaker who's really invested in Trenton be able to bring that and kind of just get kids excited about that kind of thing is I'm really happy that we're going to have that.
Mm-hmm. Now, can you share from your perspective the building where this is going to take place? Because it's an amazing historic site.
Yeah, we chose to have Maker's Day there last year and for many years to come because of the site. Maker's Day is about celebrating Trenton's manufacturing heritage, and there's no better way to celebrate Trenton's manufacturing heritage than to have a Maker's Day in one of the Roebling buildings that really, it's retained basically all of its charm from what it looked like 50, 60 years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And for those of you who haven't actually seen it, if you can just imagine I don't even know the exact square footage of it, but I would assume that it's probably 75 to 100 feet wide. It probably runs approximately 200 yards in length.
Yeah, I think so. That area. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep.
And it's got skylights. It's got all its old warehouse charm with the exposed brick, the wooden columns and the steel that's in there as well. It's got a second floor, but the second floor is not occupiable, but the second floor is open. And if you look at, or look up any images online for Art All Night Trenton, that is the building that we're going to be in. So I'm really excited for this, and I think that for Art All Night we get 30,000 people that come through there. Maker's Day, we're not expecting those kinds of numbers, so it's going to give people a different perspective of what the building's like, and I assume that people will be really excited to be able to move around and actually see some of the architecture there, and I hope that there's someone who can put that in context to what was actually made there, so that the people who visit can start to imagine, hey, what it was like in its heyday with probably hundreds of workers in there and the wire.
So yeah, that's a really great point. Last year we tried to get someone from the Trenton Library who would give something like a history tour and was really knowledgeable about the Roeblings, and unfortunately he wasn't able to be there. We hadn't tried that again this year, but there's definitely, now that you say, a couple people I have in mind that I think I could invite and provide that context. I was just thinking about how in the Roebling complex, or excuse me, in that specific building, there's one of the doors is the original door that was on the that was in the factory, and on top is the original equipment that I guess they used it to pick up some of the steel beams and move them. So it is a really, really cool building.
And it's nice to see that this particular structure is also in a redevelopment zone with the Roebling Market that's there, that's been there for many years. There's I want to say not a retirement home, but it's apartments. Senior living facility there, and then we have the new Roebling Lofts, which are going to be opening soon as well, which is also in that complex. So there's a lot of things that are happening here in Trenton, a lot of very positive things that oftentimes people miss because they're caught up in some of the negative things that are happening. But there are still plenty of positive things that are happening in the capital city of New Jersey. Regarding back to Maker's Day and some of the people who are going to be there or the organizations, can you roll off a few of those?
Yeah, so ETS is going to be there, and we were really happy to get them because they're going to be showing off some of their higher-end technology. So one of the things that's going to be there is they're going to have a spoken dialogue system that's kind of like Siri, but for educational purposes. So the kids are going to be able to interact with that. We're also going to have SimQuest, which is an industrial 3D printing company. So they're going to bring one of their industrial 3D printers that can kind of just push stuff out really crazy. And I think they're actually going to have some 3D printed giveaways as well. So that's really exciting. And 3D printing is a part of manufacturing that has a lot of possibilities. People are making anything and everything with 3D printing. So I think it's basically a plastic that is the end product. You can't quite replace metal just yet, but I think we're definitely getting there, and it's exciting to have the kids be exposed to 3D printing so early. I think I mentioned earlier, but I do want to mention again that Shiloh CDC is going to have their junior chef program there, because food manufacturing is also, I know, a really big part of what's going on in the city. I'm not quite as knowledgeable about the food manufacturers in the city, but that's an area of manufacturing that I know that the manufacturers exist in the city, and that there's room for growth there.
Sure, and just before we take our next break, I do want to shout out a few of those food manufacturers. One of them is City Beef, which is open not only to the public, but also to commercial as well. So City Beef is one of those manufacturers. We also have Carrie Hamilton and his wife, who make a fabulous gluten-free gluten-free collard green egg roll. and they're in the process of doing some manufacturing with that. So that's also another one. And then you also have the bakery, Italian People's Bakery, which is here, and then there's been some reported information that Dunkin' Donuts is looking to secure a facility here as well, so that maybe Dunkin' Donuts will be distributing and baking some of their donuts here as well. So we're about up on a break. You're listening and watching the Trenton 365 show. I'm your host, Jacque Howard, and we'll be back after a short break.
Where did McDonald's get the inspiration
for our new signature crafted recipes?
From all the people who walk through our front doors every day.
You bring your flavor to the world, we bring ours
to you.
Choose your own recipe sandwich. Pico guacamole, sweet barbecue bacon, or maple bacon Dijon. With your choice of beef or chicken starting at $4.99. For a limited time, prices and participation may vary.
Right now, get any small McDonald's smoothie, frappe, or shake for $2. I mean, how do you top a delectably luscious, crave-inducing, gimme now so I stop melting deal like that? Oh yes, of course, whipped topping. That's how. So hurry in, only at McDonald's.
Enjoy a small McCafe smoothie, frappe, or shake for $2. And for a limited time, try a refreshingly sweet peach smoothie. Prices and participation may vary, cannot be combined with combo meal.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I liked things to always be the same. Anything new or different would scare and upset me. I was very sensitive to lights and sounds. It was almost like I had bigger eyes and ears than everyone else. So I built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. I didn't like looking people in the eye. It made me feel uncomfortable. I'd throw big tantrums over little things like when my socks didn't match. Sometimes I'd do the same things over and over. Until one day, I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
You can see signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
R.E.A.C.H Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Give him a little talking to,